Hello, in this video we're going to add what's called an else if to our structure. So let's kind of do this. This is else if, which is notated elif. You'll hear me refer to it as else if all the times, but it is notated elif. So what's an else if? An else if, or elif in Python, statement must always be connected to an if statement. An else if statement checks a condition or has a Boolean expression with it. And we can have as many elif statements as we want. So let's take a look in how what we could do here. So I'm going to modify this question a little bit. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to kind of take away this else statement for a second. And I'm going to make a couple more if statements. I'm going to add two more, in fact. So I'm going to say if a plus b is equivalent to 7. I'm going to say if a plus b is greater than 7. And I'm going to say if a plus b is less than 7. So now we have a print, a plus b is equal to 7, a plus b is greater than 7, a plus b is less than 7. So what happens now is if I run this program, I can input my first number, say 1, 2, and I get, what's going to happen here? Well, what the program will do is it will come here and it will say, is 1 plus 2 equivalent to 7? And the answer is false, so it skips this. And it says, if 1 plus 2 greater than 7, and the answer is false, so it comes down here and it says, is 1 plus 2 less than 7? And the answer is true, and it runs it. And I could run this again, and I could put in the numbers 9 and 10, and again, it's going to come down. It's going to say, is 9 plus 10 equivalent to 7? And the answer is false. Is 9 plus 10 greater than 7? The answer is true, and it's going to execute this line here. Now here's the thing. Once it's printed out this, it's going to come back and it's going to then run this and say, is 9 plus 10 less than 7? Which the answer is obviously false. So this is kind of an interesting situation. Because we've written each of these as an if statement, it's going to expect all of them regardless. But really, these three statements are all related because only one of these will ever actually execute. And because I know that, I can group them together using what are called else if statements, or in Python, elif. And I do that by changing this if to an elif like this. This actually isn't going to change the functionality of our program in this case. Sometimes it could, but in this case it won't because only one of these will be true. So the benefit of this is really an efficiency piece, because what's going to happen is that if it comes down here and it inspects this and it finds that it's true, it's going to run the code block, but it's going to actually skip the rest. So this is the end of conditional logic. So this is the start of the conditional logic up here. Let's just drag this down a bit. So this is the start of the conditional logic, and this is the end of the conditional logic. So what happens is the real benefit of using an elif is an efficiency piece. Because if this is true, it's going to run this, but then it's not going to check these other two conditions. If this first condition is false, it comes down and checks the second condition. If this is true, it's going to run the code block and then skip the last one. If this is false, and then if the second condition is false, and the third condition is true, it will run this. If all three of these conditions are false, it's not going to run any of the statements. And this brings us to an interesting point. We don't look for a lot of efficiency in this course right now, but there's a couple things we look for. And one of those things we're looking for is when you block together a bunch of conditional statements, when you have a situation when you know that one of them will execute, Are you actually connecting it with an else? Because here's the thing. If this first statement is false, and the second statement is false, you know this statement must be true, so there's no need to actually check this condition. I'm just going to write, instead of elif, else. Because an else doesn't require an actual calculation. And this is the better way to do this. So you always want to ask yourself when you're putting together a bunch of elif situations, is that if the last condition you know is going to be executed if the rest fail, you're going to want to change that to an else. I hope that helped.